All right, in this video, we're going to go over Module 1, Lesson 2, which is solving for a variable of interest. A lot of other videos and or notes that you will see also refers to this as literal equations or rearranging formulas. So all we're really doing here is solving for one specific variable. Where some students do struggle with this is that the answer is not a number. It is actually just a bunch of letters. So let's get started. So here's our spiral review for the day. And what you were trying to do is fill in the blanks or using our properties of equality that we learned in the previous lesson in order to solve for the variable n. So if we have n plus 1 divided by negative 2 equals 15, the first step we're going to have would be to multiply by a negative 2. So when you multiply by a negative 2 on both sides, you end up getting n plus 1 because the negative 2 cancels out, and negative 2 times 15 gives you a negative 30. Then our next step would be to subtract the 1. So we subtract 1 from both sides, so that goes in that next box. And then finally we have our answer that n is equal to a negative 31. All right. So if you recognize any of these formulas, these are some of the formulas we're going to be seeing today when we are rearranging formulas or solving for a variable of interest. And it's helpful because sometimes we are given the velocity and we are given the distance and we need to calculate the time. Or sometimes we're given something in Fahrenheit and we need to solve for Celsius. So different ways in real-world applications to solving for a variable of interest. And our learning target for today is to solve a variable of interest given any equation. And there's a few success criteria, which we'll go over in class. Okay, so let's review what is a variable of interest. So how do you solve for a variable of interest? Well, you actually are going to use inverse operations to undo what is being done to the variable. So here, x is being added to a. So since it is showing addition, we are going to use the inverse and actually subtract. Here, x is being subtracted from a. The inverse of subtraction would then be addition. And inverse really just means opposite. So if we're adding, we're going to subtract. If we're subtracting, we're going to add. And now we have our multiplication and our division. So a is being multiplied to the x here. So in order to get rid of the x, we divide both sides by x. And here, a is being divided by x. So the inverse of that would be to multiply. All right, so let's get into it. Let's go over example A. We have to solve for x. So the first thing we're going to do is either highlight or circle the variable you are solving for, in this case, x. And then we have to use our inverse operations to undo what is being done to the variable. So we always will add or subtract first if it's possible, and then multiply or divide last. Now, can you tell me what operation is happening between the x and the b? So what is happening between the x and the b? Well, that shows me addition. That's why that plus sign is there. So what is the opposite or inverse of addition? Subtraction. So we're going to subtract b from both sides. And we get a times x is equal to c minus b. And then what is the x and the a? What is happening between those two variables? Well, that's showing multiplication. And the inverse or opposite of multiplication is division. So we're going to divide both sides of the equation by a. So our final answer or our solution is x is equal to c minus b divided by a. That is our answer. Our answer is not a number because we weren't given any numbers and we have multiple variables. So all we had to really do was rearrange the equation, which is why a lot of videos and resources call it rearranging formulas, because that's all we really did. We just rearranged it using inverse operations. Now I'd like you to pause the video and go ahead and try this check number 1 on your own, and then come back and see if you got it right. All right. So first thing we're going to do again is identify the variable we're trying to solve for. Again, it's x. And we're going to add or subtract first if we can. So b divided by c multiplied by x minus d. The first thing we're going to do is add d to both sides, because adding d is the inverse or opposite of subtracting d. So then we get a plus d is equal to b over c times x. So now we have to try to get rid of that c, okay, because we want to get this x by itself. So this c is causing us for it to not be by itself. So that is being really divided. And so we're going to multiply in order to get rid of that c and bring it up into the numerator. And so now we have ac plus dc is equal to b times x. Well, that b is now showing multiplication, so we're going to divide by b. And our final answer is ac plus dc divided by b is equal to x. You can also rewrite it. You're usually going to see the variable of interest that you're solving for on the left. So all I had to really do was flip it over here, and x is equal to ac plus dc divided by b. Okay. All right. So going on to example B. Now we have some numbers. So when we have some numbers, we're still going to do the same thing, but we're not going to have one true exact answer at this time. Okay, so we're going to solve for x. So we need to get that x by itself. We're going to subtract 7 from both sides. 5 minus 7 is negative 2. Now we have a times x. So what operation is happening between the a and the x? Well, that's multiplication. So we're going to divide by a. And we get x is equal to negative 2 divided by a. That is your final answer. Sometimes you will see that negative sign written in front of the fraction instead of in the numerator or the denominator. Both technically are correct. So go ahead and pause the video and go ahead and try check number 2. Then come back and see if you got it right. This one did give you multiple choice options too. So if you got it to the answer and you didn't see your answer value there, you may have made a mistake. All right. Let's check our answers. All right, so again, we're solving for x. We want to get this x right here by itself. So we're going to rearrange this formula or rearrange this equation in order to get it alone. First thing we're going to do is we're going to take care of this 2. Now this 2 is positive, so the only way I can move it across this equal sign is to subtract. So we are going to subtract 2 from both sides. We have negative ax now. Don't forget that this this negative sign right here, is actually attached to the a, the next term. And so we still need to get this x by itself. So we're going to divide by a negative a. Okay, we're going to take the negative symbol operation with us. Divide by negative a on the other side. And be careful now because we have negative 10. And negative a and a negative divided by a negative is a positive. So x is equal to 10 over a. 10 is being divided by a. And that is your answer choice D. Hope you got it right. All right, 2 more examples to go over here. We have to solve for a now. Finally, we're not going to solve for x. So we're going to solve for a. The problem is that we have 3a plus ab. So we have 2 terms here that have a factor of a. Well, when there are 2 terms with the variable a, we actually have to factor out the a in order to try to finish rearranging this formula or this equation. So what it means to factor out is it means to divide. So we're going to divide the 3a by a and divide ab by a. And when we do that, we can rewrite it as a in front of the parentheses multiplied by 3 plus b. And that still equals 2c. Now that we have it written like this, now we actually can get rid of this parentheses 3 plus b. Simply by dividing, because the operation that's happening between the a and the 3 plus b is multiplication. So we can divide by the parentheses 3 plus b, and we're going to divide on the other side by 3 plus b. And we get a is equal to 2c divided by 3 plus b. You can note or should note that b cannot equal -3. And the reason why b cannot equal -3 is because you cannot have a 0 in your denominator. If you have 0 in your denominator, you're going to get an error. So this is the hardest question that you could see on your end of course exam for algebra. I will let you know that it is not on our Module 1 test this year. Okay, finally we have example D, which is to solve for L. I would star circle anything that you can to indicate that you may want to remember this question or study this question before your test. So we want to solve for L, so we want to get this L by itself. So we're going to subtract 2w from both sides. So P minus 2w is equal to 2L. Since we want to get this L by itself, we're now going to divide both sides by 2. So we have P minus 2w divided by 2 is equal to L. Okay. The problem is this is not your most simplified version. So we actually have to simplify this further. So when we simplify it, we get that L, again, because I'm going to try to put it on the left, the variable of interest on the left, is equal to P over 2 minus W. Because what happened was this -2 divided by 2 is actually -1, so you would not leave it in a fraction. There's one more way you could see this written, and they are absolutely the same. They are equivalent or equal, is L is equal to 1/2 P minus W. You could see it written in a test situation in either form, okay? Either P over 2 or 1/2 P. Those mean the exact same thing. So that's it for our notes and for our practice and checks. You have 8 practice problems to try on your own. Try it on the paper. Complete your work and show your work on the paper so I can see if you've made any mistakes. And then go turn it in a Canvas and see what your grade is. Okay, this is the exit ticket that we'll do tomorrow or we'll do in class after we complete the lesson.